Alright, what is going on, you guys? And here we are back to do another street build today on the Dodge Neon SRT-4. Coming out in 2003, the sport compact that we have come to love today came from PVO, which was Chrysler's tuner group. This car was a turbocharged variant of the Neon, which produced 230 horsepower from its 2.4-liter inline-4 engine and 250 pound-feet of torque. This car even shipped with a limited slip diff and was mated to a 5-speed transmission. When this car released, it was only produced from 2003 to 2005, and Dodge had the impression of selling about 2,500 of these cars until popularity surged, leading to more than 25,000 being produced. But now, what I'm sure that you've all been waiting for, let's get into the build. As always, you gotta start with some visual modifications first, so that's why we're starting with the wheels, tires, and suspension. This all starts with the Aodahan AH02 17x8 plus 35 offset wheels, which I think are gonna look sick in this cool silver color that also has a machined lip. Now these wheels will be wrapped in a Falcon Azenis RT 615K Plus that are 255x40 R17, which will provide this car with a lot more grip, plus with the width of these wheels that we choose to. Now you know what time it is. I'd argue this is one of the most important upgrades for any build, and that is suspension. For suspension, I've decided to go with, of course, BC Racing BR Series coilovers. They're just at a good price point. I've heard great things about them, and I think that they will just do a lot for this car. Now it's time to do our big boy turbo kit and turn up the power for this thing. Now this kit comes from AGP Turbo, and they have all sorts of combinations that you can put together for your build. This is actually super helpful because I think it gives you a relative idea of what is needed for you to put down the amount of horsepower that you're aiming to do, so you don't have to worry about falling short of your horsepower goal, or you overspent because you bought a turbo that was a little bit too big for your horsepower goal that you were going for. For this build though, I don't really want to consider upgrading the trans because that's a big lump sum of money to put out, so we're just going to aim for like 400 horsepower and hope that it would be able to hold that, and then this gives some time to save up for a new trans while you enjoy this horsepower level before blowing the transmission to shreds. So the turbo that I'm going to choose with this kit is the Borg-Warner S251SX, and this has a max of 450 wheel horsepower, but we don't want it cranked up to 29 psi, but at 20 psi it's expected to be around 350 wheel horsepower, so just shy of about 400 horsepower, and we can just crank up the turbo a tiny bit and ensure that we're going to hit our goal. We are also going to be choosing the AGP fuel upgrade, as this will net us a fuel pump, and we can run the car on a map sensor now, and we also get 1200cc injectors, which should be helpful for pushing this type of power. The fuel pump that they provide is a Walbro 255 liter per hour fuel pump. We got plug and play 1200cc injectors, and also the map and tip sensors are 3-bar. We're also going to go ahead and get a fuel return kit just to help manage things better, and it's more of a peace of mind upgrade, ensuring that all the excess fuel returns to the gas tank and that any amount being sent to the injectors is indeed correct. As for the wastegate, I'm just going to go ahead and say bolt on, as I'm sure that's what most people would choose, as I'm sure not everybody has a welder, but I also know that some people would probably prefer to weld on their own wastegate, so it is nice that they offer both of those options. Now, they recommend that you look for an intake that is 3 to 4 inches, so for that, we're going to choose the SRT-4 Neon AGP 3-inch cold air intake, just keeping it in the AGP family. This is a nice intake too because they allow you to choose the compressor inlet size anywhere from 3 to 4 inches, so that way it'll match whatever setup you use, so that's why it's good to, keep using the AGP parts together. Now, I think before we get into some supporting mods, we want to hear how this thing sounds, so now it's time for an exhaust. This is the MPX titanium dual exit exhaust. Now let's take a quick listen. This car deserves some rumble, and I think that this provides just that without being too raspy or harsh. Modest, but still performance-oriented exhaust. Based on what I found from AGP, this thing should be fine getting up to 350 wheel horsepower without new fuel lines or switching the fueling to E85, so because of that, I'm just going to stick with stock fuel lines and no E85 kit. But I'm not entirely sure about this, so it may be something to consider when building up your Neon if you're not getting enough fueling. For spark plugs, we're keeping it classic, going with the normal NGK Iridium spark plug, but we're going to get them one step colder as we did turn up the boost, and we have a bigger turbo and have a fair bit of mods going into this car. And a good thing to keep in mind is that whenever you are turning the boost up, you do got to kind of decrease that spark plug gap. So with the boost that we're preparing to make, we should probably have the gap a little bit smaller than the stock. Now to keep this engine happy, we're going to drop in front mount intercooler, and again, why not choose AGP? since we're using them for just about everything in this build. This AGP front mount race intercooler should be perfect for keeping this thing happy and keeping us happy with the temps. Obviously, pushing this kind of power, which is not that much overstock, it is beneficial to upgrade the clutch. This is where the ACT clutch kit comes in, and for this, I'm not entirely sure what friction disc we should go with. I feel like a 4-pad would be good because the horsepower level isn't entirely crazy, but maybe a 6-pad would be better because, you know, just for the peace of mind. You guys have to let me know what you think. From what I have read, there are people who maybe not super reliably made 500 wheel horsepower or more on stock rods and pistons. So since we are shooting for just 400 straight horsepower, it seems that we could be okay just skipping over this. Something I am going to recommend though is making sure that your engine is getting enough oil, and that is by upgrading the oil pump. For this, I'm going ahead and choosing the high flow oil pump from Boundary Pumps, and also has the addition of adding a relief valve shim if that's something that you'd be interested in. Now, of course, one of our final mods is to do the brakes. Maybe we could rely on the stock brakes to stop this thing, but I like to think that our brakes should be better at stopping something that has even more horsepower than what we're working with, just to be safe. This is where the Willwood 4-piston big brake kit comes in, and this will help to decrease the time that it takes to stop this car when you're flooring it down the road. These are designed to fit behind stock wheels, so there should be no problem with these aftermarket ones that we have chosen, but we do also have to get the Willwood brake line kit to get these to work. Now, I'm pretty sure you'll probably break an axle shaft, maybe something else will blow, since this isn't exactly a build sheet, but more so kind of just a simple basis to build off of for this car. There's obviously a lot of preventative maintenance that you could do as well. With all that being said though, the build is complete. Like I said, there's probably some smaller, potentially missing stuff, so if you guys think of anything, be sure to drop a comment down below if there's anything that you would change or add to this build. Thank you all for coming out and checking out the build. As I said before, you guys have been here before know, I try to put out one of these every single Sunday on top of everything else that I produce, so that's when you can expect to see another one of these street build videos. I think that this should be a sick Neon to drive around the road and have enough power if you do not get bored of it, and the turbo kit that we strapped onto this thing makes it really easy for users to just upgrade the turbo should you desire more power. I think that's really nice to have. So obviously there's some smaller things you can change, but if you're just looking for some more power, it's really easy to just strap a new turbo to it as long as it's compatible with like the list that AGP has on their website. But thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support you guys provide on the channel, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for all you checking out the videos. So thanks again. Enjoy your day. See you.